Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to present a very special procedure that we use when we want to procure supply of a limited value. What we mean with limited value? I mean, traditionally, till 2012, under the PRAG 2012, it was clearly explained the limited value is less than 10,000 euro. Under PRAG 2013, this threshold has been increased from 10,000 to 60,000 euro. And up to 60,000 euro, you are allowed, according to PRAG 2013, to use your own tender procedure. But that doesn't necessarily mean that your degree of freedom have been increased. Somehow it is a bit more complicated now to deal with the preparation and implementation of this type of contracts. Our advice is that any time that the value of the tender is up to 10,000 euro, that you can use the single tender in a more or less structured way. And any time that under PRAG 2013 the value of the contract is between 10,000 and 60,000 euro, to use a procedure that is presented also in this manual, that is a kind of simplified competitive negotiated procedure. So, but in any case, it is very important for the supply to make some distinctions of what we are going to procure, what we are going to buy. Let's say that under the PRAG 2013, there has been a small worsening of the situation due to the fact that without ambiguity, the Annex 4 established that in case of contracts awarded with up to 60,000 euro, it is necessary an evaluation committee of 3 persons. But 60,000 euro is the upper threshold, the lowest threshold is 1 cent of euro. So that means that when you are going to spend probably also minor amount of money, for instance, you want to make a visibility event and you are buying a bit of patisserie, that is a supply contract under the practical guide. So you are buying in a shop, in a bar, 10 euro of cakes, and you should have an evaluation committee of 3 people that are assessing. I do not know what, I mean, if we are preparing technical specification on the cakes, that would be a bit dramatic for the implementation of the project. We know that we go to the bar, we ask the barman to give us 10 euro of cakes, and that is, we pay and we go. So in case of very limited value of supply contract, our advice is that you really go to the place, you buy whatever you want to, and then you have the invoice that is signed by 3 persons. The signing of the invoice by 3 persons would be the hyper-concentration of the entire tender procedure that is partially not documented, but in this invoice would be recognized as an expenditure that is within the project. But also in case you have to spend a little amount of money, but for some goods that is going to last, that would be better not to be used such a procedure. Try to imagine it, I mean, if you have to buy, I don't know, again, some meals for an visibility event and you have to spend 300 euro, for that you can do with an invoice, and that is end of the story. But if you want to buy a computer for 300 euro, a computer is something that is going to last for a certain period of time. So we would discourage you from buying a computer just with an invoice. It would be better to follow the procedure that we have prepared, a bit more structured procedure that we have prepared, so that you and the shop that is selling you the computer is fully aware of what are the obligations that the shop has with you, and what are your obligations with the shop, so that everything is clear, because it is better to have a clear business relationship instead of having later on people that are dissatisfied for, for the implementation of this type of activities. So, in general, any time that the supply is having a value up to 10,000 euro, you can use the simplified, you can use the single tender either with a single invoice or with the procedures that we are presenting to you, inviting only one tenderer, because that is often happening, that even in some places that are very small, you don't have the possibility to ask more supplier information, because you have only one shop that is selling computer, for instance, and for you it is convenient to buy in this shop, because then for later on assistance and so on and so forth, it is simpler and more convenient. But in case of projects, grant projects implemented in PRAG 2013, when the value is between 10,000 euro and 60,000 euro, we always advise you to use the procedure and not to try to simplify your life, because later on your behavior could be considered not very transparent or even fishy, even if it is not. So just follow our advice in your interest if you want to. In our procedures, we take into account that we are dealing with very limited amount of money, but there are some obligations that must be clearly expressed in the contractual relationship. Of course, not in the case of buying a few cakes. And in our documentation, we address properly, in a very simple way, both the procedures for the procurement and the procedures for the contract preparation and implementation. And in this way, we are able to protect our grant beneficiaries from implementing contracts, supply contracts that are not robust enough and that could cause a loss of money to the grant beneficiary. In our manual, this presentation of this single tender and this simplified competitive negotiating procedure is clearly presented. It is split in 3 parts. In the first part, we describe all the procedure from the moment the grant beneficiary is thinking of procuring some supply to the moment of the final acceptance of the supply. Then we have an audit trail where we present in a schematic way these procedures, giving information about the annexes that must be used and about the circuit of documents, the responsibilities, and so on and so forth. And then in the end, we have prepared detailed hints for the preparation of the tender dossier, of this very simplified tender dossier. But in order to be so simple, it took us quite a long time to be able to be prepared, because we had to select all the elements that were essential and eliminate all the elements that traditionally are in a contract that are not relevant. But we did this work for you, so you have it by now ready. And we are also helping you to prepare the tender dossier, because with following our presentation, any time that you should have any doubt about what is the correct way to fill in the format, you can check in the video, and you will have in the video this type of explanation that will be additional to the explanations that you already have in the manual and so on, and in the different parts of the manual. And so we are now going to present these 2 parts. The parts relate to the presentation of the procedure from the beginning to the end, that is synthesized in the audit trail, and the part for the preparation for the tender dossier. Thanks a lot for your attention, and let's go on with the next phase.